I was having a conversation with someone, and I noticed that everything they said about their life, when it was positive, it was about how they overcame their bad childhood. When it was negative, it was how their bad childhood held them back. And I realized at that point that they couldn't be the only person who blames their childhood trauma, their bad parenting experiences, their bad childhood based on bad parenting, growing up in a single parent household, growing up in a household where your parents were more involved in their careers or more involved in the streets or whatever than they were being a parent. I know that there are more people who blame that experience for everything, the good and the bad. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you use it as a scapegoat for the things you didn't achieve or the things you haven't overcome and accomplished. And you use it as a motivational tool for, see what you can do? Nothing can hold you back. But it held you back in the area in those other areas. So I said, let's come in here and have a talk. And I've touched on these types of topics before, but whenever I come across someone in the real world, in real life, I live my life offline, and they are dealing with something, I like to touch on that thing because I know that they can't be the only one. And I take that as a sign from the Most High that I should talk about this thing. GC, bless up, brother. Bless up. Good to see you in the building, man. Representing the Mod Squad. Salute to you. So let's take a dive into this thing, man. How to find peace of mind and confidence after the volatility of growing up in a single parent household. Because 9 times out of 10, when you have these traumas, you grew up in a single parent household. Now, granted, we like to say that the outcomes are better for growing up in a single father household. It just depends on what age your father gets you. If your father has you from birth, you're going to suffer just like someone whose mother has them from birth without the other parent being available. Especially a toddler. There's going to be some gaps in a toddler's life. There's going to be some gaps in an infant's life. There's going to be some gaps in a young elementary school child's life without their mother. Let's be honest about that. So let's take a dive into this thing. The first thing we must understand is this. In real life, for real, childhood is such a short window of your life. So no matter what happens, good or bad, it's such a short window, but is a primary piece of the foundational puzzle in your life. So I guess what I'm saying to you is outside of being a foundational piece, it should never have the weight to either hold you back or push you forward. It shouldn't have the weight to solely be responsible for either of those decisions, because ultimately it comes down to a decision about what you're going to do with your life. And so childhood is said, it represents such brevity in the overall lifespan of someone. And if you pass away so young that your childhood was the majority of your life, then none of this applies to you anyway. You're not listening to this right now. You're not listening to anything. So, but the inner child stays around forever. So whatever that small piece of the foundational puzzle is, it could be a corner piece of the foundational puzzle. But I'm going to be honest with you. What you must understand is this. You must consistently pull from the positive. And only once pull from the negative. Your negative experiences as a child should only be looked at to tell yourself, only yourself, that can't hold you back. If you had a bad parent, but you had a good coach and good teachers, guess what? You focus on the teachers. Don't let whatever parenting experience you had be the only part of your childhood that you use for motivation. There's many other parts of childhood. If your friend had a mother who treated you like a son or a daughter, then guess what? You still had what you needed. Maybe you didn't get it in the most optimal way. Maybe the presentation wasn't the most optimal. Everybody wants to be in the house with their own parents. But if you had a friend whose mother treated you like her child and you and that kid grew up like brothers, then you got some benefits from that household that offset the fact that your parent wasn't as active as possible. Your mother wasn't as active. Your mother was for the streets. If you end up living with your grandmother, guess what? I'm going to be honest with you. You probably got a better dose of the information you need to succeed from your grandmother. Just because your mother wasn't around and you live with your grandmother, maybe it's a positive thing in your life, not a negative thing. Literally, every storm cloud has a silver lining. You got to find the lining of that cloud. So when you think about it, your goal is to become your wisest, smartest, most experienced, most calm, most peaceful, most understanding adult version of yourself. So remember the people who put positive energy into your life, even if it wasn't your parent, if it wasn't your mom, if it wasn't your dad, who was it? Give that person the credit. We always talk about, especially on, in certain circles, we always talk about, the stepdad, this and the stepdad, that. But here's the thing, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. There is no benefit for the stepdad. But if you had a stepdad and he did his job, you get that man all the credit in the world. You get over yourself. I need to find my biological dad and mend that relationship. Hey man, listen, you need to make sure your relationship with the man who was there is strong. That's the man who's responsible for helping you hold it in the roll and not going off the deep end because your father wasn't there. And it doesn't matter who's at fault. It doesn't matter if your father left or your mother ran him off. It doesn't matter. What matters is if there was someone there in that space, you have respect. It don't matter what the rest of the world says. It don't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what anyone says. You have to respect that person as a valuable piece of your development. That's what you have to do. Even if that man and your mother eventually end up not being together, you still have to respect that man. You should be able to keep contact with that man. You should call that man sometime and tell him how much his influence meant in your life at that particular time. You should do that. That way you don't have to focus on trying to rebuild relationships with people that gave you negative energy. Here's part of the problem in your life, and thanks, SJ, for putting that out there. Here's part of the problem. Here's part of the problem. You spend too much time trying to mend the relationships with people when you didn't destroy the relationship. You spend too much time trying to mend relationships with people who don't want to mend a relationship with you. You spend too much time trying to get people to understand what they did wrong to you when they don't think they did nothing wrong to you. You spend too much time trying to make people feel guilty about things when you can't guilt trip people about things they don't feel guilty about. You spend too much time trying to find motivation for yourself from a space where there was never any motivation. It's a waste of time. You should only focus on the people in your life who give you positive energy. That doesn't just apply to when you're an adult. It means even when you look back. And that's a major part of the problem. Truth Seeker, 86, appreciate the dub. Just put money in the play. Keep speaking this truth. Salute to you, bro. Salute to your truth. I appreciate you, man. King Abraham, my brother. King Abraham, salute to you, brother. Always representing, man. Well, hey, man, one of my OG supporters right there, man. Listen, man, these guys, it's crazy, man, how we develop these, this family environment, man. And we just hang in there. We in there, man. Appreciate you, brothers, man. See, one of the things that you must do, first, you got to be completely honest about your relationships. So you got to look back And it's not wrong for you to say, okay, my mom wasn't a good mom. Don't let that hold you back. Don't let that stop you. You got to look at it from this perspective. Whatever I went through as a child, whatever I went through as a teen, whatever I've gone through as an adult, it made me the man I am now, or it made me the woman I am now. And you must understand one thing. If you're happy with who you are, if you're pleased with who you became, if you're proud of the person you are, how can you be angry and sad and mad about the things that made you that person? Maybe if your mom was a different mom, you wouldn't be the person you are. Maybe if your dad was a different dad, you wouldn't be the person you are. Everybody doesn't get the same road to become the person they need to be. Maybe there's a toughness and resilience that came from that you need. Maybe there's a propensity to navigate tough times that you got from that, and you need it now. The only thing that should be a problem to you is something that stunted your growth. Like if you're 25 and you still have the mindset of a 15-year-old, yeah, that's a problem. But how many people do you know like that? So wherever you lacked from your parents, don't overlook that you got it from somewhere else. So what if you didn't get it from your parents? You're not in a position as an adult to hold your parents accountable for what they did when you were a child. It's a waste of time because you don't understand the circumstances. You don't know what happened. You have no idea what happened. It's kind of like y'all who grew up, man, like if your dad and your mom is Generation X, man, your dad probably did some time. He probably did some time. He probably spent a chunk of your childhood behind bars. He probably did. Even now, you think of the military, you think of some of these wars, you think of the war in Bosnia, you think of Desert Storm, you think of, even let's go all the way back. You think of Vietnam, there's always been a time where men who did battle, men who were soldiers, men who were in the military always left their families. And here's the problem. You could go fight for your country all you want to. You can go fight for whatever you want to. You can go rally and march and do whatever you want to. But every day there's a family there that needs you. So you have to make that decision. Are you going to do this or are you going to do that? Because you can't do both. You can't do both. And sometimes you look at something as a failure for your parent. And think about this. You can't be facetious. You can't be like, well, I didn't get a lot of stuff for Christmas. So what? You can't be like, well, my birthday came around. So what? We're not talking about those types of things that don't matter. Let me tell you something. Anything that doesn't matter to you as an adult only matters to you as a child because adults made it matter to you. After that first birthday party where you guys saying happy birthday to you, then you wanted one every year. But if they had never done that, you would have never missed it. So if you don't care about it as an adult, don't hold it against your parents as a child because maybe they didn't care about it. You understand me? Maybe they didn't care about it. If you end up getting caught up in a religious belief and now you don't go along with that, okay, what if your parents did? See, you have to stop expecting perfection from people unless you're perfect yourself. The only thing you can do perfectly is react and respond to the things that you deal with in life. And so if there are people, now, if there was a negative interaction where you were treated poorly, that's something totally different now. If you were treated poorly, that's something, but if you grew up in poverty, hey man, you grew up in poverty. If you grew up poor, so okay, your parents were poor. But did you really know you were poor when you were a kid? Sometimes your parents may have starved, but did you eat? Sometimes that was only enough to keep them from passing out, and they gave the rest to you so you could be full. First, I want you to view things. Here's one of the major issues. It's easy to view your childhood from the inner child perspective. You got to start viewing your childhood from the adult that you are now perspective. That's the only way you're going to see it through adult eyes. You have to start viewing the way your parents were, your grandparents were, your teachers were, your coaches were, your aunts and uncles were, your older siblings were, your neighbors were. You have to start viewing them from an adult perspective based on the things you've already experienced as an adult yourself, to understand what their mindset was, to understand what may have been influencing them, to understand maybe sometimes they thought they were doing the right thing, but it wasn't the right thing. Maybe sometimes it was the right thing and it just didn't pan out. Because as an adult, you've thought things were the right things that didn't pan out. You've invested in things, you've tried certain things that didn't work. All you got from it was a lesson learned. So you have to understand, unless your parents were older when they had you, like if your parents were in their 40s, 50s when they had you, your parents were already OGs. You didn't have to deal with a bunch of things. But if your parents were in their 20s when they had you, man, your parents were still learning life. I think that's what you have to understand. Your parents still had to be learning life. That's all. They were just learning life. And everyone has that space to learn life. Yes. Did you get some of the fallout from that? Yes, but it should have made you a better person as long as they didn't do anything intentionally to harm you. It should have made you a better person in that respect. So the failures that you look at your parents having, okay, if your parents didn't stay together, they didn't fail you. They failed each other more than anything else. They didn't fail you. They failed themselves. Yes, it affected your life, but it affected their life tremendously. Let me tell you some of the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that can happen is two people have a child and end up not being together immediately after the child is born. I'm talking about they don't even make it a year. The kid turned 1 year old in a single parent home. That's not the way to be. At a certain point, being in a single parent home doesn't matter. So you're a teenager, your parents can split up when you're a teenager. You don't care. Your parents split up, you in 10th grade, you driving and all that, man, you don't really care. You know what I'm saying? You don't really care. You driving yourself back and forth to school. Then when you go over your dad's crib or your mom's crib on the weekend or whatever, you drive over there. You see what I'm saying? There's things that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at that point. We're talking about little kids. When you're little, you don't. And let me tell you something. Sometimes you got to think about it. Sometimes you didn't even know your parents weren't together until you got older. They faked it. You were a kid. You thought they were together. You thought your dad was just going to work all the time. And these are the types of things, man, listen, don't make a big deal out of something that's not a big deal. Don't become an adult and suddenly start to make your childhood a problem. I mean, if you've navigated life, if you put yourself in the position you want to be in, you've done all the things, hey, man, listen, whatever trauma you have, you don't even necessarily know if it come from your childhood. But it's easy to pinpoint something because this society tells you, well, if this was the case, something's wrong with you. It had to affect you in a negative manner. Maybe it didn't. Maybe you were born to be more resilient than that. Maybe you were. And you have to get out of your feelings about it. You have to use your logic, reason, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge to help protect and possibly balance that propensity to be emotionally scarred. Like, as human beings, we have a propensity to want to be emotionally scarred. Like, we want to be able to blame something for our failures in life. That's why I tell you men all the time, don't look at something as a failure, look at it as a lesson. Here's the thing. When you pass 9th grade, you don't get a diploma. When you pass 10th grade, you don't get a diploma. When you pass 11th grade, you don't get a diploma. You don't get a diploma until you pass 12th grade, right? When you're a freshman in college, you don't get a degree. When you're a sophomore in college, you don't get a degree. When you're a junior in college, you don't get a degree. When you're a senior in college, you do that dissertation, you go ahead and come on out that thing, you get a degree. That's every facet of life. So when you look at things as a failure, maybe it was just a step in the process. So when you think about it, man, it's one of those things, man. You got to give your parents credit, man, for putting in work. If they worked as hard as they could, whatever life you had, man, was the best life you was gonna get. So you got to get out of your feelings. Because if you stay in your feelings, you will convince yourself you're emotionally scarred by something. And most times, you just got to get over it. Are there some things that can scar you? Yes. But 9 times out of 10, it's not this. It's not the thing that you blame for your failures. Listen, man, when you look at something and you look at something and you really failed at it, it's because you didn't try it. You didn't try it, or you denied it. You understand? Sometimes you're doing something that God didn't even bless you with the talent to do. You had to work hard to learn it. And the main thing is, there are certain coping mechanisms that we must apply to ourselves. Laughter heals the soul. That's why I'm telling you guys, man, so I was telling someone the other day, I don't have any trauma from my childhood. I don't have any. I don't have any trauma from my childhood. I look at my childhood, I'm like, boy, listen, everything I went through, the changes and the way I developed and the way I adjusted and the way I acclimated to environments. Man, listen, I'm the most well-rounded individual I know. I can sit in a room full of squares and they think I'm square like them. I just fit in with the squares. I can sit in a room full of thugs, room full of street cats, gangsters, hustlers. And you know what? I'm just the hustler they were. So the square side didn't have that experience in the hood. The hood side didn't have that experience in the burb. I'm blessed enough to have had both for an extended period of time. So I can truly navigate both environments. And it's not even about code switching. It's just about, okay, I'm in this environment. This is how I move in this environment. This is how I learn to move in this environment. Okay, I'm in this environment. This is how I move in this environment. This is how I learn to move in this environment. Everything that you look at in life as an adult is based on the decision you made. It's not based on your childhood trauma. So you grab your peace of mind and confidence by not self-sabotaging. You understand? Stop self-sabotaging. Stop giving negative energy to yourself. Sometimes things going great in your life and you can't stand for them to go great. You got to figure out something to blame. Well, it's going good now, but I remember when it wasn't going good. Why do you remember when it wasn't going good? Well, I bask in the glow of things going well. I bask in it. I'm ready for it. Ooh, let me enjoy this right now. That's my mindset. Cool Rob, appreciate the dime for the wisdom and knowledge gained over the years. Salute to you, Rob. I appreciate it, man. Cool Rob, man. We go back, way back. So laughter. Man, listen, use your imagination. Man, listen, when I go out there with these cameras, brothers, let me tell you something. When I go out there with these cameras, man, and I'm out there shooting, brother, I'm using my imagination. You understand? I'm imagining what it would be like to capture that bird in flight. And I go out where I can see that bird and I catch that bird in flight. And you know what I do? It enlightens my life, man. It enlightens my life. Use your imagination. Use your imagination. You were good enough to go to the NBA? Go, man, go, listen, man, go join a league, go do some pickup games, man, go play ball on the weekend. You never know, depending on what city you in, man, you'll be in a gym, man, and NBA players come in there and ball. You get a chance to ball with some NBA players. You never know, bro. Or some of the college stars from the town. You just never know. But you got to use your imagination. You got to use laughter, and you got to learn how to self-pep talk, man. Have a pep rally for yourself, dog. You know what my pep rally for myself is? When I take a vacation, man, when I take a solo vacation, that's a pep rally for myself. Man, let me tell y'all something. I've probably taken more solo vacations than most people do because I'll just decide I'm going to go somewhere and just go there. You understand? I won't even do much. I'll just go there. I'll hang out, man. I eat good. I'll find a dope gym to go to. I eat good while I'm there, man. Ride around, man. Drop the top, do some thing, man. Go kick it at the beach. Go, man. Listen, I will go to the beach by myself, spread out a blanket with an umbrella, and pass out under that umbrella. And I'm talking about, boy, listen, man. I'd be 2 shades darker by the time I come out that sun, boy. But I'd be out there knocked out. You know why? Because that's just what I do. I give myself a self-pep talk by reminding myself, hey, man, you're blessed. You're in a position where you can do this. You're in a position where you can do that. You're in a position where you're affecting the world this way. Now, you're in a position where even if you're just a supervisor at your job, think about the young people who you influence. You know what I mean? Think about that. So you got to think about the good that happens in life, man. And I'm telling you, whatever you deal with in life, if you've gone through a divorce, if you lost family members, lost loved ones, if you've gone through child support, family court, no matter what you've gone through, it doesn't matter. You got to stop listening to people who chime in on everything that happens in your life and try to put a negative spin on it. Because everything you deal with, there is nothing. There is nothing, man, that you can't overcome. And don't forget to encourage yourself. See, I don't need encouragement from other people. So when when a woman talks about she give me emotional support, I don't need no emotional support. I don't need your encouragement. I'm self-encouraging because I know for a fact everything I've done, everything I've navigated, everything I've gone through, everything I've overcome. I know all of that. Who's better to give you encouragement than yourself? Who's better to tell you that you can do it than yourself? Who's better to tell you that can't hold you back than yourself? Who can stand there and look at you and say, I know what you can do. I've seen what you can do. I've been there with you every step of the way. I've seen how you navigate things. They thought they had you beat then, but you came back. They thought they had you defeated then, but you came back. They thought they had you oppressed then, but you bounced back. They thought they had you in a state of mind where you were about to give up, but you didn't give up. You rose up. Who can tell you that besides yourself? I'm the only one that can tell me that and mean it and know it for sure and put money on it, put my life on it. I put my life on what I can do. I put my life on what I can overcome. Because the same life I'm putting on it, it's the same life that shows and proves it, man. I'm telling you, brothers, you have to be a self-motivator. You understand? You have to be a self-motivator because here's the thing about self-motivation. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you motivation. Nobody owes you positive words. Nobody owes you belief. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you that but yourself, brother. You're the only one who owes you that. You're the only one who's obligated to give you motivation. No one else is. And I think we take it for granted that everything we needed, we got it. Even if you didn't get it from your parents, you got it. Listen, even if you had to have the toughest teacher, let me tell you something, boy, your parents can be tough. Your grandparents can be tough. Teachers can be tough. Your coaches can be tough. Your other relatives can be tough. But let me tell you something. There is no tougher teacher than life itself. And even if you didn't learn it from your parents, life taught you. So it doesn't matter what they did or didn't do. It just matters what information you have. Do you have the information? Did you have to get it the hard way? Okay, so what? We all have to get some of this information the hard way. None of us. Put a 1 in the chat right now if everything you ever learned, you ain't had to learn it the hard way. If everything you've ever learned in life that made you the person you are right now, put a 1 in the chat if it all came easy. I'm telling my man, listen, man. Easy peasy, lemon squeeze it. I'm talking about ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, man. Put a 1 in the chat if everything you've ever got just came to you easy. All you had to do was just lay down. You ain't had to put in no work for nothing. You ain't had to focus. You ain't had to work. You ain't had to grind. You ain't had to do nothing. You just sat in a chair in a recliner and everything just fell in your lap. You didn't diet not one time. You ain't lift one weight. You ain't do nothing. You ain't even did no push-up or nothing. You ain't do nothing. You just sat in a chair in a recliner and you in the best shape of your life. You ain't had to do nothing. You ain't had to get no education. You ain't had to learn that. You ain't had to get no on-the-job training. You ain't had to do no apprenticeship. You ain't had to hang out with your dad or your granddad while he was doing it. You ain't had to do nothing. But you are at the top of your industry, and all you had to do was sit in a recliner and flick that TV. You got a wonderful relationship. I'm talking about a loving woman, a woman that love your dirty underwear, boy. I'm talking about love your dirty draw. Woman love you to death. Do anything for you. Keep herself together because she wants you to be happy to be with her. Take care of your household. Take care of everything. Take care of your children, man. I'm talking about you ain't never had to worry about the woman ever. But you ain't had to be the best version of yourself. You were just, when she met you, all you did was sit on the couch all day and flip the channel and play Madden with Do Dirty. And she's still giving you all that. Stop lying to yourself. Everything that we have ever accomplished in life took some work, took some dedication, took some focus, took some drive. So let's stop acting like what you went through in your single parent home childhood ruined your chance in life. It didn't. There may be some things you had to overcome, some lessons you had to learn. Maybe what your mama taught you wasn't right. Don't work in your life. You understand? Maybe what your dad taught you don't work in your life. Maybe your dad was a military man and you ain't never got no plans on going to the military. Who knows? Maybe your dad was against the military, preached to you forever, don't go. And you end up having to make up your mind you was going to go. That's easy. That's life. Parents weren't meant to be a cheat code. Parents weren't meant to carry you to where you need to go. They were meant to be there as a safety net just in case you fall while you climbing. You understand me? They need to be close enough to you. That's why there's a certain group of people who, if they do become successful, they had to buy their parents a house. There's other groups of people, when they become successful, they don't have to buy their parents a house. Why? Because their parents are already living a certain life, and when they elevate themselves, their parents are close enough by to catch them. If you fall off and your parents aren't close enough by to catch you, you can fall all the way back to the bottom. You understand me? You can fall back to the bottom. Stumbling and falling down a couple of rungs on a ladder and then getting your grip, that's different. Mountain climbing, you may slip and you may go back down, but you stick that picket now and you got that cord on you. You're not going to fall all the way down, but what if you fall all the way back down to the bottom of the mountain? The problem is nobody falls all the way back down to the bottom of the mountain. You got to climb back down to the bottom of the mountain intentionally. No one falls back to the bottom. So what's the real problem that your parents caused? What's the real problem that your childhood caused you? So yes, when you're really, really young, neglect is a major thing. Neglect is major. There's some kids who ended up in the foster care system, man. I'm gonna be honest with you, that's not a system you want to end up in. Now, if you ended up in the foster care system, yes, your parents really dropped the ball. So their unreliability and neglect is something that it may have put you in the situation, but they're not their neglect directly, but the result of it that puts you in foster care. You understand? Because I'm going to be honest with you, there are some foster care nightmares out here, and I'm quite sure some of you have heard of them if you haven't lived them yourself. There's some out here, and we must understand that they're out here. And we must also keep in mind that if that's not your situation, then your situation was far from terrible. Most of us didn't have terrible experiences growing up. It may not have been easy. It may not have been the life we see on TV, but then at a certain point, as a man, you got to start understanding what you see on TV is made for TV. So it may not be the lifestyle you see other people have that's, in the upper echelon, but we're not talking about that. That's a fantasy world. So what you got to understand, yes, some of those things may have left you kind of emotionally unstable into your adulthood, but we're all emotionally unstable to a respect, man, to a certain extent. You understand? I'm not gonna fall away into my emotion, but there's a certain line you can push me to, and I'm gonna come out of, and I'm gonna be, woo, boy, I'm gonna be rattlesnake angry when I come out that thing. So yes, we all can be that way. That's not what we're talking about. We live in a world that promotes emotional instability. The only way you can control people with simple things like clicks and likes and what they see on a 1 minute reel is if they are emotionally unstable. You have to be emotionally unstable to be moved, to respond to a skit as if it's real life and be angrily having arguments about the skit that's not even real. You got to be emotionally unstable. So emotional instability isn't something to say, well, my parents did this to me. And then, sometimes, man, listen, there won't even be an obstacle or a negative impact from something, and you'll create it. You'll create a negative impact. You'll create, an obstacle in your life because you think because of what type of parenting you think you had, you think there should be some trauma. Like you're looking for the trauma. You're looking for the drama. You almost feel like somebody who grew up like you, your life ain't complete without the trauma, without the drama. And then you look around you and you got all these people that's trauma bonding and drama bonding, and then you're part of that circle. That's why I tell you, man, you got to be around people who are in the position you want to be in, whether that's financially, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically. You got to be around people that are in the position that you want to be in. Because misery loves company. And so people who will tell you that, man, my parents, man, my dad wasn't there, my mom wasn't there, and I'm this and I'm that. You be like, you know what, man, I feel the same way sometimes. You know what? And so before you know it, you're compartmentalizing how they feel about their upbringing when in actuality, their upbringing may have actually been terrible. Yours may not have been, but if you can identify with one thing they say, you're emotionally quick to jump on the same bandwagon, and you got to stop being that way. That's why I tell you, man, you got to guard your emotions from people. You can't just let people have access to your emotions all willy-nilly. You understand? So even, man, listen, even with me, if there was something that I knew would make me sad to talk about, I'm not finna talk about that with nobody. I talk about that in my own private spare time. I talk to God about that. You know what I'm saying? I'll let BOA talk to King Ray Ray about that. Then I let Dean jump in just to be the mediator and listen, just in case they start arguing. I'm telling you, brothers, this is the life that you must live. You must carry yourself in a way where you trust yourself to protect yourself, where you trust yourself to direct yourself, where you trust yourself to respect yourself, where you trust yourself not to neglect yourself. You understand what I'm saying? You have to understand that it's your job to overcome whatever you think you've gone through to the point where it doesn't become a detrimental force in your life. That's your job. You may have gone through some things, but so what? If you don't need to be institutionalized and on psychotropics, you ain't been through nothing. If you need to be institutionalized, yeah, you have gone through some things maybe. But be that. Either be someone that's institutionalized and need that in their life, or get out here and stand on your 210 or stand 10 toes down and do what you got to do out here. Do what you got to do out here. If you know you're genetically predisposed for some of these long-term illnesses, some of these chronic illnesses, some of these, these life-altering, sometimes life-ending, then you need to be on top of that. If you look around and you see your mama, your daddy, your grandmama, your great-grandmama, all of them was diabetic, you know what you need to be doing? Eating clean and getting lean. That's what you need to be doing. You need to be eating clean and getting lean. If you know that you're genetically predisposed to have some psychological issues, man, some type of bipolar disorder or something like that, man, you know you're genetically predisposed to have that, you need to focus on having peace around you. You don't need to have no stress around you. My point is, whatever you've gone through is your job to figure out a way to fix it. Not sit there and woe is me. This happened when I was young. My parents did this. My mama did this. My daddy did that. My grandmama did this. My granddaddy did that. My uncles and auntie did this. My older sibling did this. I remember that one time my coach did this. Unless it's something very foul. If you were touched as a youngster, you may that's a scar that you may have to deal with. Now, I don't know. You may not be able to navigate that one. But I'm talking about the things, my mom and dad, they ain't really have no money, or my dad and mom, they weren't together and all that. And even the worst thing, even being touched, you still have to figure out a way. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that nothing affected you in a negative manner. I'm saying that you have to figure out a way to navigate life where those things don't hold you back. You can't be a 75-year-old man talking about I never did anything because of how my parents treated me. At some point, you got to get over that. At some point, you have to get over that. These things will prevent you from creating the life you want, the life you deserve, the life you dreamt of, the life that's there waiting for you to come grab it. These things will prevent you from doing that, because you know what they'll do? They'll make you believe you don't deserve better. You'll look at someone who you think had great parents, their parents are still together now, and they got this life, and you'll tell yourself they got that life because their parents are together. That's not why they got it. As I told you earlier, that's a small puzzle piece in the foundation of who they are. Just like it's a small puzzle piece in the foundation of who you are. It's a small puzzle piece in the foundation of who I am. But there are also people who had both parents and they got money and they still ended up being bottom dwellers. So that's the example. If you think your upbringing was so bad that you should be a bottom dweller, you had nothing you could do about it. You ain't gonna never be at the top of the. Go look at the people who had their parents. and their parents had money. And they ended up being the biggest screw ups ever in the history of the world. It's about what you want and deserve and what you're willing to do to keep anything or anyone from impeding your progress toward that thing. And like we talked about confidence earlier, let me tell you something. Because you can't self-love, you can't have healthy relationship with other people. If you can't self-love, you can't have healthy relationship with other people. I'm talking about even business relationships. If you can't self-love, you'll self-sabotage. Those are only two people, the only kind of people in the world are those who self-love and those who self-sabotage. Those are the only ones. Which are you? Which are you? So when you don't have the confidence and self-love in you like you're supposed to, man, you can't have healthy relationships. And you can't even reach your full potential. You understand what I'm saying? To reach your full potential, you had to be in a place of peace. You had to grind and work hard, but you had to be in a place of peace so you could focus on pace. You can focus on time. You can focus on energy. You understand? That thing has to run like a well-oiled machine. And a lot of times you get out here in the world and you're not worrying about anything running like a well-oiled machine. You are literally looking at yourself in disgust. You're literally looking at yourself in disgust. Even though, like I said earlier, you know everything you've accomplished. You know that no matter what has gone on, you've been there for yourself. When you were living in your car, wasn't nobody in that car with you but you. If you were ever homeless living on the streets, wasn't nobody on them streets with you but you. Yeah, there's other people out there, but you know what I mean. If you've ever done time, there's nobody in your life who was in that cell with you but you. When you got that degree, nobody walked that stage with you but you. When you started that business, nobody had them scissors and cut that ribbon but you. When you got in shape, nobody was eating clean, getting lean, going to the gym, hitting that iron but you. How you not gonna love yourself? Hell, if it boils down to it, you really the only person you should love. When you really think about it, when it comes to humans, you are the only human being that you should love. You take care of your children because they're yours. You're a parent to them because you brought them in the world. That's your job. That's your responsibility. It don't have to be no love mixed in with that. If there is, cool, but there don't have to be no love mixed in for you to be a proper parent. They're just a responsibility. Even that is love for self. It's your responsibility. You're being responsible because when you love yourself, you're responsible. So when it all boils down, man, people tell my man, who you gonna put before you? If you've been a 50-50 relationship, it ain't gonna ever be that. That means we equal. We ain't gonna never be equal. I don't care how valuable someone is, they ain't gonna never be equal to me in my mind, in my sight, in my eyes, in my spirit, because I know everything about me. I don't know them like that. I don't know them like that, brothers. And you got to think about it, man. It's a terrible thing to be held hostage by something that happened to you 20, 30, 40 years ago, bro. It's a terrible thing. Look at all the time you've already wasted being held hostage by that thing. Because when you're held hostage by something, there's only so far you can go. You understand? They got you in a secure compound. You understand? They got you chained up, but they got you handcuffed. They got something going on. There's only so far you can go. And you don't want to be held captive by something from that far ago, man. Sometimes, man, I'm talking about a decades old experience, bro. Come on, man. Come on, man. It is torturous. It is unfair. It is you being vindictive to yourself. It is you lacking understanding of yourself. It is you not being considerate of yourself. It's unfair, man. It's unfair to yourself. It's unfair to yourself. And so when you think about it, man, when your young childhood years, when your prepubescent years have the power to affect you negatively for the next 30, 40, 50 years, You just being soft. If you're not, you should have been in an institution. Go check yourself in somewhere and get yourself together. Either check yourself into a facility or check yourself into life. Instead of letting those things influence you to not achieve, you got to find a way to embody the power of positivity. You got to figure out a way to find the positive out of those things, or to find the positive out of some facet of life, or to find the positive out of the life you live right now. Because here's the thing, man. If it didn't hold you back from achieving anything, if it didn't hold you back from, handling everything you need to handle, if it didn't hold you back from accomplishing the thing you need to accomplish, if you're happy with your life, happy with your career, man, you're happy, then what did it do to you? It helped make you who you are. See, you got to stop saying, I made it in spite of that. I made it despite this. No, you made it partially because of that. It probably gave you the hustle you got. It probably gave you the drive you got. It probably gave you the grind you got. It probably put you where you need to be. It probably put you where you need to be. And a little bit of separation to get over everything. A little bit of separation. See, you got to separate yourself from all of your life and go in a hole by yourself. That's how you got to separate yourself from the thoughts you have about your past. You got to separate yourself from the opinions you have about your present. You got to separate yourself because you're not worrying about your past. You're not worrying about your present. You separate yourself so you can focus on your future, so you can focus on the life you want to live, the life you want to build, the energy you want to have toward yourself. And because nothing from your past can ever be changed. There's nothing you can do to change the past. Why focus on something that you can't change? What you think you got all the time in the world? You think can you predict your date of death? Can you predict the day that you will expire and the spirit in you will retire? No, you can't. So every little moment you waste doing something that's counterproductive is crazy to me. That's crazy. You can't change the past. I mean, even in the smallest way. You can't change the past. Even, I'm talking about in a microscopic way. You can't change the past at all. Not for the better, not for the worse, not for anything. There's nothing you can do about it. But you can make moves to shield yourself from any negative fallout from the past. Because it's so far away that you're the only. I want you to think about this. When you're caught up in the past in a negative way and the energy is draining you, you're the only one from that scenario who's handling it like that. Everybody else has moved on from it. You got to do the same. Am I saying that you got to forget about it? No, but you have to be stronger than it. How some shit from 40 years ago gonna be stronger than you? Look, y'all got me cousin on the King Ray Ray channel, man. How something from 40 years ago gonna be stronger than you now when you've been constantly building and growing since then? How can it still overwhelm you psychologically? How can you allow that to happen is what I want to know, man. You can't. And just for those who happen to care, man, we are shooting this episode on the phenomenal Sony A7 IV. But today, instead of our trusty 35mm G Master f1.4, we are shooting on the 24-70 f2.8 Sony G Master lens. Woo, boy. Look at the crispiness of it. Look at the skin tones on it. Do you see the skin on that BOA? Do you see the skin? So this is where the value of recovering what you consider your bad childhood, you have to recover that and self-parent like you've been doing your whole life. See, no matter what they did as parents, you had to take over. If you had the best parents, at some point you got to take over. You got to self-parent yourself. Parenting stops when you get the freedom to move around outside of the home without your parents. That's when their parenting responsibility is cut in half. At that point, they're just providers and protect. Especially if they send you off to public school, they send you off to public school. The school is your new parents. The school is your new teacher. So let's put it like that. The school curriculum is your new teacher. All your parents really doing at that point for providing for you. You gone all day. They gone all day. By the time y'all see each other, it's time for y'all to go to bed. Then y'all wake up and do it all over again when the weekend come. Y'all trying to go do some fun family stuff together. Y'all ain't got time to sit and chop it up and see what's been learned and what's been missed and all of that. Y'all ain't got time for that. You understand me? Y'all ain't got time for that. So at that point, you self-parent. When you out somewhere and your friends are saying, let's go do this, your parents ain't there to tell you, boy, don't you do that. You got to self-parent. So you've been self-parenting all this time. You think your parents are been responsible for you since you were, what, 21 or something? No, they've been responsible for providing for you. You've been parenting yourself this whole time. The first time, if you got intimate before marriage, the first time you had to self-parent yourself. The prophylactic didn't just pop up. Your dad didn't roll up and say, wait a minute, boy, before you do that, put this on. No, you had to self-parent. You have to self-parent. You've been self-parenting forever. So you got to make the moves and the steps to overcome the detrimental effects that your perceived bad childhood had on you, because it's only a perception that you have. It's only a perception you have. And that's just what it is, man. This is where the value of regrouping your self-confidence and self-love to challenge and balance what you need to achieve everything that you're focused on achieving. Like, this is your job to do this. Nobody owes it to you. Nobody really cares if you do it or not. It's on you as an individual, because we all have to do it. We all have to remember that we self-parent. When you know you got to drive, you know not to drink, right? In your own town, you know the places where you can't speed. You know the places where you can go a little bit faster, but you know the places where you need to go the speed limit. Exactly. And you can't go over 2 miles per hour because they'll pull you over. You know you have to self-parent, self-govern. And you've been doing it for so long. I don't understand how you can self-parent and say, I've been self-parenting myself all these years, but my parents messed me up. No, they didn't, dog. Outside of the most extenuating circumstances, they didn't. They didn't. It's been on you for the longest time, dog. It's been on you, man. So let's keep it a buck on that, man. Let's keep it a buck. So listen, brothers, I ain't gonna hold y'all in here too long, man. We had to come in here and do the King Ray Ray joint. Y'all know King Ray Ray had to show up, man. King Ray Ray had to show up again, man. You know it. I have to do this sometimes. And I'll do it. So, brothers, until we meet again, I am your brother, the Honorable King Ray Ray. Signing out. SJ3. GC. Mod Squad. Peace.